Talking about Bind AI, the platform allows you to go from ideas, images, your GitHub to a fully functioning application, and you can deploy it, preview it, everything within the same platform. You can think of it as a little bit more feature-rich, lovable, and a much more simpler version of Windsurf. So if you're someone who is technical, can do things, but not exactly a programmer, Bind AI is something you should use. For large corporations, it's also an efficiency play. If you can get, let's say, 30% faster with AI, then you could build 30% more features in your product. Within the first 4 hours of launch, we will publish a blog post on the model. Like as long as we would post it early enough, we would be on the first page for Google search.
Today I'm chatting with Amogh Mundhekar, co-founder of Bind AI, an IDE in your browser that turns plain English prompts into full stack apps. You get live preview, GitHub sync, and one-click deploy to Vercel. Inside Boom, you can switch between 15 plus models: Cloud, Gemini, DeepSeek, the O series, all in one place. There's also agent mode that scaffolds files, installs dependencies, and boots your app for review. The team's bootstrapped. They sold out an AppSumo launch with 50 plus public reviews, and by their own count, more than 13,000 builders are shipping faster with Bind AI. If you're a builder, you should come check this out. It's a cool product. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Homebase AI podcast here, the AI chopping block. Today, I have my friend Amogh on the call. Amogh is building Bind AI. It's a product that will allow you to build pretty much anything in terms of software. Amogh, maybe you can tell us better what this product represents, what you're building, and who is it for?
First of all, awesome. Thanks for having me, David. Talking about Bind AI, we're building a platform which allows anyone, we're mainly targeting startup founders or builders or hackers, someone who wants to build something and can understand a little bit technical stuff. The platform allows you to go from ideas, images, your GitHub to a fully functioning application, and you can deploy it, preview it, everything within the same platform. And we started out as something very, very simple. It was, you can chat and then it just gives you code. And then we built this mainly based on the feedback from the community. We have 14,000 users now in the last 8 to 10 months. And they're like, oh, I can see the code, but can you make it preview? And then we started with HTML preview, and they're like, can you support Next.js? And they're like, oh, can you just allow me to publish it? So that's how it came to be, and you can think of it as a little bit more feature-rich, lovable, and a much more simpler version of Windsurf. So if you're someone who is technical, can do things, but not exactly a programmer, Bind AI is something you should use.
Nice. And so speaking of a technical background, how did you get here? Because you mentioned that you wanted to be a software engineer, but then you went into mechanical engineering, yet you're here at Intuit and Mailchimp leading their AI initiatives. How did you figure out that this is the problem that you want to solve?
I had actually way back decided I never wanted to be a software engineer. And back when I was in my grad school, I had the option, but I decided I want to go work with cars and stuff. So I did that and worked in the automotive industry, and then I realized that there's this thing called cloud, and everything in the mechanical industry back then worked on Linux. So I worked with software companies who would produce Linux-based softwares, and I would be going to those big companies like Ford and even Tesla in those days, use our software, and then I realized there should be a better way to do it. So then I started working with these cloud companies. Then I got into kind of a technical product management, and that's how I built up a lot of my understanding about building SaaS, building applications. But yeah, I've done quite a bit of different roles, but all of them have been mainly building AI or data centric products. Intuit like TurboTax, QuickBooks, or even before that I worked at Wolfram Alpha, Crunchbase, and Radius. So it's a common theme. It's a good crossover between being technical but not actually writing code.
Got it. So you mentioned you noticed kind of the cloud movement. Do you think AI is bigger than cloud? Do you think it's gonna go we're gonna see much bigger companies come out of this? I mean, we're already seeing it, I guess, OpenAI and stuff like that. But what do you think is in the future for AI?
Well, if you look at it, NVIDIA is the biggest company out there now. They're sort of building the cloud, but they have everything, physical. So they're building the cloud. But yeah, I think AI definitely is not a thing which is like you can ignore and it will pass. There's a lot of companies who have kind of made it their mission, and you could see like when ChatGPT was launched, Google made it their mission to completely transform themselves and become an AI first company focusing on that, and they've released a great deal of stuff with Gemini. You have seen Meta, they went from this whole AR thing, completely killing that business and focusing fully on AI. And, with the Llama models, it didn't quite work for them, but now they have this whatever super intelligence thing where they're just building kind of more chips, data centers, whatever. So yeah, AI is here to stay, and I think at this point, like there's gonna be an AI application for everything, and it's going to depend on how well you either inject AI in your application or how well you use AI. Because there's a popular saying by someone, I think Andrej Karpathy, is like, AI is not going to take your job, but someone using AI is going to take your job. So that's going to be pretty true, I feel.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you believe in super intelligence? Just curious. Like, do you think we're going to reach that point?
I hope not. Watching all those Skynet and Terminator movies. But it will be possible, right? If you look maybe 20 years down the line, there's also quantum computers coming up. And again, who knows what's going to happen? But 50 years down the line, the processing is going to be way faster than what it is now. And you might be able to just compute answers much more faster, in which sense you could maybe get more things done. But who knows? Hopefully there's no AGI. Just like intelligence which humans control. Uh, but at the same time, there are a lot of companies who are building towards it. So it'll be an interesting future.
Got you. And so, like, I mean, like, you're at Intuit. Like, how does Intuit approach AI? Like, like I've heard there's a lot of things happening there, but like, I mean, I know you can't probably share the deep details about that, but like, are they excited about it? Is there a lot of adoption? Is there a struggle? Like, what do you see out there?
Like Intuit is one of the companies who has taken it very, very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
There have been public launches,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you can see the recent launches. But just in general, like you can look at Intuit as a company, Adobe,
Mm-hmm.
like even Figma, like they kind of like are reinventing themselves. Airtable, they're
Mm-hmm.
kind of reinventing themselves as a AI first product.
Mm-hmm.
But that is something which is a consistent theme across a lot of large companies where they're trying to do like more AI centric stuff. And there's going to be a lot of legacy companies who will try to do some stuff AI, but the ones who really adopt it are going to be the ones who get ahead.
Got it. Sounds good. Well, let's talk about a little bit about your product. So you said you integrate with 15 different models. Like, what's the story behind that?
Yeah, so initially when we started, like as I mentioned, like it was just chat and then it produced code. And a lot of we got a lot of early users, people who were using ChatGPT but didn't really have a good way to produce code and do things with it. And we made a conscious early on decision that we'll focus on building AI agents rather than trying to fine tune models. So just there's a lot of like every week or so there's a new model which comes up, and we just try to do our best to bring all of those models to our users.
Mm-hmm.
And like not one model fits all.
Mm-hmm.
Some are expensive, some are fast, some are good at coding, some are good at general intelligence. So we just give like the optionality to our users to select whichever model works best for them.
Got it. And so in terms of users, like, how did you find them? Like, how did you find 15,000 users for your product?
It's a great question. We started very, very small. And initially, I think a lot of those are just coming through content. In the past, like I've done like some gigs where like I did a real estate marketing kind of gig a few years back. And then for that, like I used to write content, and then I figured out I can have freelancers kind of write content for me on just like a WordPress blog. And then that had worked out quite a bit for me. And then I knew that like SEO, like if you do it right, it works. So very, very early on, we started writing content, and we focused specifically on whenever a new model is launched. So let's say if Claude launches, let's say Claude 5, within the first 4 hours of launch, we will publish a blog post on the model. Like, and we would specifically post comparisons like Claude 5 versus, let's say, GPT-5. I'm just making up the model names, but we have like comparisons for all the major models. And once we kind of like figured out the structure of the content, as long as like we would post it like early enough, we would be on the first page for Google searches. Even now, like for a lot of the articles which we wrote like many months back, we still rank. So we got a lot of those users because those are the ones who really want to like know more about AI and models for coding, and that's how we got a lot of our signups. And we also did a launch with AppSumo, which is a marketplace where you can offer deals. So we got quite a bit of like paid customers through those, and that's typically founders and builders who use it. But yeah, mostly I would say it has been organic, and now every day we get like 100 new users who just organically find us. A lot of them just like Google our name. So I guess to some extent, like there's a word of mouth. But yeah, it is surprising how well content works, and if you know what you're doing, it doesn't take that long to rank.
Dude, that's amazing. So like I'm trying to figure out the SEO stuff I was telling you early on. And it's like I'm like talking to so many SEO people, but like what you just said makes so much sense because like I just saw like a viral thing happen yesterday, the Coldplay concert
Oh, that
fiasco.
thing, yes, of course.
And then like when I type in this name, like the first page that pops up is like all the news articles that this guy did this guy did that. So like the whole search feels like just like a like just a news search. Like it's like I couldn't even find his LinkedIn profile. Like it was like somewhere down below.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, it's very hard to rank for very generic keywords. So
Uh-huh.
we do like very specific things like Claude for Sonnet versus Gemini 2.5 Pro for coding.
Hmm.
These are very specific terms, and we did a lot of like Reddit reposting. We
Hmm.
also recently have been trying a lot of like influencer marketing,
Hmm.
which works surprisingly well. It is a
Hmm.
hit or miss because like you never know what kind of like users you would get if those are like very relevant to you or not. But
Hmm.
we have done a few collaborations on Twitter or X where one of the posts went like viral, and we got like 500,000
Hmm.
views in like 24 hours. We did
Oh
like
wow.
YouTube collabs.
Yeah.
So yeah, learning our way. If I knew all of these things before, I would probably do more of that, double down
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, we haven't really spent a single dollar on ads. I am trying
Uh-huh.
to set it up now. But yes, it's been fully organic.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. So yeah, we're trying to figure out a lot of the same things. Like we're posting our stories on Reddit, like
That's
not in
awesome.
a spammy way, but I think it's already, I don't know, it's not really pissing anyone off, but like we're still trying to find like kind of like a good angle for how to go about it. But man, you're like a true indie hacker at heart, it sounds like. And then who are like your best users right now? Like who's like, like are they like software engineers? Because I just saw that Lovable raised like 200 million or something like
That's
that,
crazy. Yeah.
and yeah, and they said that they realized that their top customers are people who actually don't code; they just have
Right.
ideas, and that's the market they went after. But with you, like you're kind of targeting the technical folk, like people, right?
A little bit technical, right? So a software engineer wouldn't be the job title we would go after. Because
Hmm.
if you're a software engineer, you're probably going to be using VS Code, Cursor, or Windsurf. Our best users it would be someone like a technical founder or a technical person in the team. So, as an example, you could think of we have a lot of our users who they own kind of their own web design agency or web development agency. So in a sense, like you have the chops to like create designs and maybe an HTML prototype, but you probably don't have maybe the means or the bandwidth to convert that into a fully functioning application. But you're technical enough where you know that you can connect it to your Git and stuff. Or it's going to be someone who is not a coder but just like enough motivated and technical enough where you can go figure out a little bit. Because like if you want to build a full application, right? So you want to build a front end, back end, connect a user management system. There is some level of technicality which you have to at least understand, like, oh, I need to go to this platform and get API keys, or get this URI and plug this in and make sure I don't put my API keys out in the public. So someone who is like motivated enough and technical, that's really who we are going after. And we have a very active Discord community. Like for a very long time, we had like a live chat, and we did like really good job talking to our users. Now it's become a little bit hard because we have a lot of users, but we are very active on Discord, and they know that we are still kind of very early, so they will tell us like, hey, I know you guys are still like early, but can you please like add this feature? And that's how we have kind of grown and built the amount of features we have.
Man, sounds cool. So, so I gotta ask you this question, right? Like, there's all this code, assistants coming out, or not all these, but like some of them are dominating in the market. Plus, like tools like yours, product like yours. Like, what's gonna happen to engineers? Are we gonna need them? Are we not gonna need them?
We're going to need engineers. There's the way to think of it is, so if you look at maybe 10, 20 years back, what was the nature of people who did web development, and what are the tools and technologies they used, right? And for example, like PHP was very prevalent, and then early versions were just HTML, just JavaScript, and the web moved forward in terms of the technologies it uses. And the people who were, you know, creating those HTML pages now are acquiring more skills to learn more stuff and build more complex stuff. So now, there's things which are done very well by AI. Those things include building a front end, like HTML is, yes, definitely AI does a really great job building it. Even like Next.js and React applications, it does a great job building it. The things where AI struggles right now is design, right? And you can still get like a one-shot design, like, hey, create this thing for me, but it works for someone who's just trying to create something. But if you're trying to do something serious, and then if you have a working application, it's like, no one really tells the developers like, just go put a button. I don't care what it looks like. That's what it is like AI. Like, put a button here, and then the AI decides for itself. So I think like design is an area where I think there is still a need for people to do it, and then for developers and engineers, I think the way things are going to shape up, and again, that's my opinion, is someone who was doing maybe just front end can then lean on AI to do the front end for them, and then they could learn more about how they can do more of the back end stuff and build more complex stuff. So I think the amount of complexity which engineers do, they will, more and more complex stuff, you'll have actual people do it, and then something is rinse and repeat. I think AI will be good at doing that. And for large corporations, it's also an efficiency play. If you can get, let's say, 30% faster with AI, then you could build 30% more features in your product. So there's a good side, but again, like I think it's gonna be like people needing to upskill, or just having the opportunity to just, hey, I couldn't do that because I had to learn this. Now you don't have to learn that. You just can jump on to the next one.
So, I mean, are you seeing that like at Intuit, Mailchimp? Like, are you guys shipping 30% more by leveraging AI? Like, is that like noticeable?
I think that's a general trend, like across the board, and just across, look at different companies. I think there was a very famous kind of article, blog post, which I believe Airbnb had posted. So they had posted, I think earlier this year, that they had basically refactored and re-engineered a big chunk of their code base, which could have taken them like a couple of years. They used AI to refactor it, and then they did it in like just a few months. which was like significantly lesser than that. So there's different applicability where, let's say if you want to write unit tests, um, probably don't have to write those. If you want to create documentation, you could use AI to do that. If you want to maybe update or refactor things or transform from, oh, I want to go from maybe React to Next.js. Those are the things which you could save a lot of time with. But across the board, obviously, like you have seen a lot of changes in the hiring trends. So it'll be interesting to see how. I mean, it has to do with the efficiencies brought in by AI.
So, like right now, like what are some of the skill sets that like you kind of have to have? Like what do you see? Like if you were to hire someone, or maybe I don't know if you can share like what Intuit is looking for when they hire people, like or like when you work with others at your company, like what are some of the things that people should focus on in terms of being ready for the AI age?
I think in general, like ever since LLMs came in, everyone's sort of an AI engineer, sort of, right? And it's a default expectation that you know how to use AI, and it's using AI tools. Like don't create meeting notes. Maybe use a plugin. That's the simplest form of it, right? And a more complex form is like how do you actually use AI to kind of assist you? And I think that's a default expectation that you think very AI centric, and that is the trend which I have seen is where AI first, right? Like there's a way for like building things. You can build it as an AI first thing. An example of an AI first thing will be you build an agent which does everything for you. There's minimal interface. Maybe it's conversational, maybe not conversational, but then the amount of elements you have in the flow is less, and then you're just like assuming the agent is going to be doing a lot of that heavy lifting for you. Versus, oh, you have this existing, think of it like, I don't know, let's say Salesforce. And I know they're doing a lot of AI stuff, but imagine like Salesforce is a very complex product, and you have a lot of like millions, thousands of users, customers using that. You can't just fully change how it operates. And in that case, you can introduce some AI features. But then, like if you see the trend, like you're gonna have more people, or you're gonna have to hire more people who at least have a way to think, oh, this is how I can do with AI. But that's a general hiring trend, is someone who really understands AI, knows how to use AI or to build AI. That is going to be the default norm.
Got it. I mean, do you think the notion that there's going to be a lot of AI slop, or not slop, but like products that get created that's going to require like actual senior engineers to figure out how to fix it? Do you think there's some truth to that?
There is a lot of truth to that. You can see it on Reddit. I actually started getting these ads on Instagram where, oh, is your product built with AI? Let us fix it for you. Is your product 80% built out? So I think that is the new trend. And I saw a post on Reddit like a week ago that there was this, I think a small like dev agency, and they're like, now most of the clients we get are to fix like the code built by AI rather than building from scratch. So, and again, like it depends on how well you have structured the code. Like something which we noticed, based on like we have a lot of users, and what people try to do is they try to get a whole Amazon clone in one prompt, right?
Let's
And
go.
yeah, it's like, oh, I want this, I want a search page, I want like all these listings, and then there should be a checkout page and stuff, which is great. And agents are able to do that to a certain extent, and you will be able to do that in future. But that is not how, if you were to build a real application, how would you think? You would think like, oh, I need this is the application I want to build, and then you will think like, oh, I want to have like this page where I want to have this, and then you'll have a design. First, you'll start with a design. You're not going to go to a developer and say that build it. You got to have a design. You're going to first create a design, and then you're going to say that, oh, this is how the flow works. When you click on this happens, and then when this happens, you saw this notification, and then you design it, and then you build it, and then you define the architecture like, oh, this is how the front end works, this is the stack you use, this is the back end you use. And there's many layers to the process if you have to build an application in reality. But the assumption or hope or faith, I would say, that I can give this prompt and AI will build application is a little bit, you could argue that that's not the best way. But yeah, like as AI agents are getting better, I think things will get more structured, and you can already see like Replit, does a pretty good job with their AI agent, and it asks you like, do you want me to do this or that? But yeah, I would definitely expect like AI and AI agents. You have an agent running on Bind AI to kind of do most of the legwork, and then just have someone kind of like take it to a production level. But I would expect more of that to happen.
Would you say, I'm guessing Lovable is shipping a lot of AI sloppy apps, but like, would you say your audience is a little bit more technical and careful about what they push out, or like, what are you seeing out there?
I mean, not fair to Lovable users. I know a lot of them are like playing with it, but there are also several thousand applications which have been shipped. Similarly for us, right? Like our users tend to be a little bit more technical in general. So they will cobble things together, or they might even have their own GitHub repo, and a lot of them build WordPress plugins. And there's a different way to like manage and deploy it. So just the nature of applications which you can build on Bind AI is different. Like you cannot deploy, a WordPress site or a plugin from Lovable as an example. But if someone is doing that through Bind AI, like the nature of how you do it is a little bit more technical. But yeah, we have several hundred users who just deploy on a daily, weekly basis. But yeah, I think overall, as vibe coding becomes more and more complex and the agents can do a lot of it, the end users will have to worry less about security of their data and stuff.
Got it. And so how, like, like there's Lovable, there's Replit, like how do you approach like differentiation, and like what makes you think that you can compete in this market?
Yeah, it's a very hot space, and yeah, I mean, you can see that within just a year, Lovable kind of grew like massively. They had the founder had posted something a few months back, I think 6 months back, which I found very interesting, and something a lot to learn from. So initially they had launched as GPT Engineer, and it was more general purpose like Engineer, which was kind of building code with AI. And then they decided to like narrow down and then build only specific type of applications. And which is where their limitations are. Like you can build JavaScript based in certain technologies and stack, and that's all you can do on Lovable. And they found like a really good slice of the market, and they found millions of users wanting to do that, right? Who don't really care for like, I don't really care about like what stack to use, React, Next.js, or Svelte, or whatever, right? Like they don't, it's not really something they care, and then they just care about a built out application for them. And I think they did great with that. But if you look at the number one, and we were in a wait list for quite a bit. We were in a wait list for about 2 or 3 months, and we surveyed thousands of like signups who joined our waitlist. The number one tool they used was Cursor, then Windsurf, then ChatGPT for writing code. Like Lovable was fourth and Replit was fifth. And a lot of these were like, I kind of know code, or I am a founder, or I'm a technical person in a startup. So the differentiating, like if you are someone who is not a programmer and trying to use Cursor or Windsurf, it is challenging, right? Because you can do certain things, but you gotta know the basics of how to deploy your applications. So I think we found a good niche where you are not quite familiar with like VS Code and Cursor, or don't want to use that, and Lovable doesn't meet your needs because you probably want to do more complex stuff, you want more control, or you just don't want to do JavaScript. You probably want to create a Python application or just a PHP application. So there's like a niche, a good big slice between what Lovable doesn't support, and then Cursor's a little bit too difficult to get everything operational. So that's really the market we're going after.
Got it. So somewhere there in the middle. And I'm curious, like, could you take an existing application, plug it into your product, and then add features to it based to just kind of move quicker? Would that work?
You can. So we have a GitHub integration. You can connect your GitHub repos and your branches, and we just import like the entire code base, and then you could essentially enhance that application using AI. And a lot of our, I would say about 30% of our users connect a GitHub because then they have a code base. We don't fully have a functionality to like push commits and branches to GitHub, which is a little bit more technical, but we do allow our users to just download the application they create. But yeah, there's a lot of users who want to start with what they have, and typically they try to just clone a public repo, or even just like, I have this like plugin which I built many years ago and I want to improve it. So they will just bring that on and they'll start kind of having at it.
Like, what is like one lesson you would say you've learned building this out that you do differently now if you were to start this over?
I think like initially when we started, we were a little bit too broad. We started with like, hey, we'll give you AI models and then you can generate code for anything you want. And initially we actually, a lot of our users, as I mentioned, like were someone who didn't really, ChatGPT didn't fit their needs. And a lot of our users were actually Claude AI users, because Claude had this like message limits. So every 4 hours, like you max out your limit, and then you can't use it. You have to wait for a certain time. So we got a lot of users and a lot of users from Reddit, and they were very technical. They were like software engineers, and the moment they came in, they would be like, "Oh, you don't have this, you don't have that. You don't have that feature." And then they were really comparing like, oh, I can do this in Cursor, or I do this in my development workflow. Why don't you have it? And then we started kind of building for that. And then we spent about 2 or 3 months, and then we realized that, hey, that's not really the persona we want to go after, because it's hard to catch up, right? Like Cursor is something which is really good, magnificent. VS Code is good. You have a lot of plugins, AI plugins which go in that. And then we made a conscious decision, like we are not really going to build for the expert software engineers who would rather be in their terminal, or they just want to be in their VS Code. So we again decided like we will go after someone who is technical, can build stuff, but isn't really an expert developer, and we'll leave like Cursor and Windsurf to help them out. But if I have to start over, I would definitely double down on the persona we are focusing on, and that would also allow us to like build some features faster for the intended persona, because we build some features, and a lot of people love it, but again, that's not something we continued as a path in terms of building more complex features.
Got it. I mean, it's like, would you say like you're like the perfect ICP for your own product?
I am definitely the perfect. I am building the product for myself. So my initial thinking was like, if no one uses it, I will use it to create my next application. And then I do use it a lot. Like I had a designer, and then he's actually based in Ukraine. And then now he is just taking some time off. And then I decided like, hey, I am just going to use Bind AI to create prototypes. So now I create designs using Bind AI, and then just deploy it as a prototype link, and then I just give my developers essentially like, oh, this is the prototype, and then I will download a Next.js project, and it's like, hey, these are the components. Yeah, I think that's a good way to use your own product. I use it for like fixing, debugging, checking, like since we sync with GitHub, I can easily check like, how is this feature implemented. I ask Claude like, go look at this repo and then tell me how good is the code and how would you refactor it. So yeah, definitely building it for me, and I think that is the best way to build a product, like where what the product actually needs. Which is also why I was hesitant to like build for like proper software engineers, because I'm not a proper software engineer, and it will be a learning path for me to understand software engineering workflow. So I think that's the general wisdom. Like you got to be the user of your product.
I'm noticing I don't know if it's a trend or if it's like a requirement, but I'm noticing there's a lot of product managers who are being asked to do some MVP development and stuff like that using these products. Is that like a trend that you see also like in enterprise, like maybe at Intuit, or like is that like a new thing maybe?
I guess depends. I haven't seen that as a trend, but I have seen a trend where PMs would, rather than just having a PRD, a Google Doc, it would, back then it was balsamic. You would just draw wireframes. Now you just could prototype and then share like, this is how you want to, this is what I mean when I say this. But again, in large corporations is different, right? Because you have design teams and there's a lot of like standard design patterns. I would expect like and Retool, if you're familiar, like it's a company which focuses on internal software development, internal tools. So I think for that, like, I've definitely seen where, oh, you want like something internal to convert like a JSON to like a XML. Sure, I did it for you and then I connected it with the API. So yes, I would expect to see that more for internal tools, and then for external ones, it's going to be tricky unless you are a small startup and really trying to ship it that way.
Is there any trends in AI that you're seeing right now that maybe other people aren't paying attention, but it has like maybe huge potential? Like whether in enterprise and fintech or in,
The trends which people are not paying attention to, maybe I'm also not paying attention to. So it could be my blind side. But a few things which, voice is definitely, voice agents are really picking up, voice-based applications. Apart from that, I think like more agents for X are coming up, but 2 years back agent was a system prompt on an LLM. Now like actual agents are coming out, like Claude released Claude for Finance yesterday. So I think like there's industries where you still have a lot of opportunities to do like a chat GPT for X or a Perplexity for X. But yeah, it's hard to predict because all of these big AI things just come in like, oh, now you can do this. But yeah, I would expect like a lot more in like robotics and cars as well. Grok is coming to Tesla, Grok 4. So yeah, I would expect like more physical automations to also use AI, along with like some legacy industries really adopting it.
Yeah. Are you seeing any jobs that are just kind of becoming obsolete? Just curious, like.
There is a trend, right? Like I think testing as a job, I think it will be less relevant QA. Because you can do a lot of that with AI. But at the same time, like if you're doing QA, you could start developing. Besides that, I think a lot of like copywriting, you can do a lot of that like AI assisted. And just in general, like anything which can simpler tasks. I think I don't know if full jobs are being or full roles are being eliminated, but it's gonna be gradual. It's like 100 years ago, whenever you had like horse carts, you're like, oh, no one uses horse carts now. What am I gonna do? Like learn to drive a car, and then you have a job. So but yeah, I think it's just going to be an evolution of like the type of things people do, and it'll be exciting because 3 years back I wouldn't dream of building an application myself. Now I can do that, so I've progressed myself from dreaming about it and telling someone else to do it to me doing some of it, and then maybe in 2 years I could do all of it, and then someone else could do like maybe the next step of it.
I like it. We're coming up on time here, so I was just going to ask you, like, so what's your big vision for Bind? Like, is it going to be a billion-dollar company? Is it just going to be a bootstrapped, lean, mean, money-making machine? Like, what are you eyeing, for your product?
Yeah, that's the money question, right? Yeah, I always build like to solve for specific problems, and I like to build, but I've been thinking a lot about it, and then I think at least where I find peace at is, if you're familiar with Base 44, they got acquired by Wix for like $8 million. So my saying is, in the world of lovables and cursors, build a Base 44. So I think that's the way, like, and you will see on LinkedIn a lot of posts where people building like solo startups or with like really lean teams and getting really a lot of user traction. So at least for me, I want to make sure that this technology is available to a lot of people, hopefully millions, and then like make it a sustainable product so that we can continue building on top of it and just democratize it for everyone.
Sounds good. Sounds like you're on the right path. How can people connect with you? Like, what's the best way? Is it LinkedIn, email? How can they find you?
Active on LinkedIn, email, whatever works.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, Amogh, thank you. I know here, like I said, it's 5:30 here. I know it's, Friday, fun times ahead here during the weekend. So thank you for coming on the show. Like I said, we'll roll this out to our audience. I think it's a great product. In the time we were talking, actually, I have some people that I want to show it around with, show it to, because they're working on some products.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah, for me personally, actually, one of them is my cousin, so he's a little bit technical. So I think he'll be a good user to test this out. So we'll take this for a spin. But also, I hope some of the people that are listening to this are going to take this thing for a spin, and we'll get you some feedback hopefully in the next few weeks.
Looking forward to it. And again, thank you for having me. And it's always a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise, Amogh. Thank you.
All right. Peace.